Think you know what's going to happen in the big game? Call it with DraftKings Predictions, a new app where you can make real money predictions on football's biggest game. DraftKings Predictions is new, simple to use, and available in your state. Download now. New DraftKings Predictions customers get up to a $75 first trade bonus with promo code SPOTIFY. DraftKings Predictions is a CFTC registered introducing broker. Event contract trading involves substantial risk of loss. One for new customer. Opt-in required. Non-withdrawable predictions dollars expire in 1 year. Ends February 8th, 2026. Market availability varies. Eligibility restrictions apply. See terms at dkng.co/predictions promo.
All right, big question: recurve or traditional bow?
Yep, no, you got to go with a compound bow. In my opinion, that's what I've always used. But using a compound bow, you have the same poundage on every shot, same amount of power, and you can adjust that to whether they're 5 meters or 10 meters out. You've got more variation with the recurve. Some people do use them, but yeah, compound bow would be my go-to if you're wanting to get into it.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it. All right. Summer's here. It's been cracking weather lately, and one of the things I've been talking about for ages, and I sort of still haven't really put the foot down, even though I was up at 4 a.m. this morning looking at what to get, is bow fishing. So I thought, well, listen, why don't I get someone out that obviously loves it, is pretty much just focused on it, and I'll pick his brain and work out what I need to set up because, we'll get into it in a second. Connor, how are you, mate? Thank you for coming on the podcast.
No worries, mate. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, look, as I said, 4 a.m., for some reason, I just woke up and couldn't get back to sleep, and I'm Googling away. I cannot decide what bow to get for bow fishing. So let me talk about what I've done so far. Is I've got my standard bow that I hunt with, and I bought a little reel, but then I sort of had this thought that maybe I shouldn't be putting my good bow around salt water and connecting everything up and having 2 different setups essentially. So I started Googling away, and some people do it, some people don't. I noticed the poundage was way lower, and that sort of makes a little bit of sense. So mate, what are you running? How long have you been bow fishing? And let's get into that.
No worries. I've been doing it since I was 13, 14. I got my first bow. Did a little bit of bow hunting, rabbits, goats, foxes, things like that. Around the farm. We're from a property, so did a lot of stuff like that, and then got into the bow fishing pretty quick from there. So a lot of the time I still use one of my old bows that was my main hunting bow, actually. It's just an old Winchester Quicksilver. Like you said, the poundage, that's wound down anywhere from between 20 to 30. Is pretty ideal for bow fishing. Allows you to get a lot of shots in during the day. You could be taking anywhere from 50 to 100 shots through the day if there's a lot of fish around. And it helps you not to wear out your shoulder and things like that. Also, fishing a lot of the smaller creeks and things like that, you don't need a very big poundage to get the penetration you need on the fish. 20 to 30 pounds is usually pretty much where you want to be in terms of that. But anyone who's looking to get into bow fishing, I personally don't think there's a particular brand or anything like that. If you're a beginner, anything really will do. There's a lot of good brands out there. I tend to go with a lot of American-made stuff. Muzzy, Bear, they make a lot of the Bear Shore Runner. It's a good bow for all of that sort of stuff. Anything like that. But if you're looking to get into it, something cheap around $100 to $200. There's a lot of different bows that will do the job.
Yeah, so they obviously seem a little bit less expensive. Obviously, the poundage is a lot further down. Am I right in thinking that the reason the poundage is a lot lower is if you have higher, not only will it go through the fish, but it could go into the deck, and then you're in for a bit of a world of hurt trying to get your arrow back?
Yep. No, you're 100% right. Yep. Like I said, they're not something with a tough skin or hide that you're trying to penetrate through. It's you're using heavy fiberglass arrows, so they've got a lot of penetration through the water, and you don't need much to get into a carp. So like I said, 20 to 30 pounds is easily enough.
Sufficient.
Yeah, yep. Like you said, if you're pushing above that, you're going straight through the fish and into the bottom of the river or wherever you're fishing, and they can be pretty difficult to get out.
So one of the things I was struggling with, and I bought one that just looks like a normal, I guess, enclosed reel. There's two different types as far as I'm sort of aware. That you've got that one that it spools out the top and it's more enclosed, and then the other one that's a bottle essentially, and you put your line into the bottle, and same thing, you wind it in obviously on both of them. Do you have a preference? Is one better than the other for a particular reason? Because for me, I'm sort of sitting there going, I think they both look relatively the same, other than maybe the bottle could tangle a bit more maybe.
So, yep, I personally use a bottle retriever. Yep, every day of the week. Bottle retriever is my go-to. I know the one you're talking about, and there's a lot of people in America, especially, that is another big choice over there. A lot of people do use that style of reel, but I find the bottle retriever it suits me for a lot of different reasons. They can tangle, but they're not too bad really. Everything's fed back into the bottle. You have a clutch or a brake, I don't know what you'd want to call it, a lever down the side that you press in when you want to get tension on the line and pull it back in, and it feeds back into the bottle. I use the AMS Pro Series bottle retriever is what I use. They have a few different options. They've got the Pro, the Sport. There's a couple of others off the top of my head. I couldn't tell you the name, but they have a few different options of bottle retrievers, and I've always found those the best. Easy to use. There's not much to them. The line's always stored in the bottle, so you're not having it fall off. You can get one other kind of reel that you didn't mention. Sort of just looks like a hand line on the front of your bow, and you have to wind that in by hand. I've used those before, and it's it's a lot of hassle compared to a bottle retriever. That's my go-to.
Okay, so that makes sense. I think I may have seen that a long time ago, but they're not as prevalent as far as I'm concerned with what I've been looking at and researching.
Another option on the AMS side, if you have a look on there, I think they're called the Mudcap Economy Series. So they're a cheaper option if you're just getting into it. But even if you are just getting into it, I'd spend the extra sort of $50 to $60 to get a bottle retriever. So it's well worth it. Yeah.
All right. So gear seems pretty straightforward other than that first selection. And then putting it all together, it's basically the same as a normal bow setup, except with whatever reel option you put on. Now, I'm guessing there has to be some sort of tips and tricks. And I guess, everyone talks about when you bow hunt, there is a strategy, whether you're looking for an area where there's good feed, where you're talking about what time of day you're going, the wind, all that. Is that transferable to bow fishing and chasing carp? Are you able to pattern them? Is there particular times of day which is better? Talk me through that, mate.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about bow fishing. It combines a lot of elements from fishing and hunting. They both come into play at different times. Times of the day, early morning, late evening can be really productive. You get a lot of fish. As that sun gets lower, they're not worried about predators being able to see them as easily. When you don't have that sun directly on the water and there's a bit of shade, you have more fish coming out into the open to feed and things like that. But in saying that, the middle of the day can be a good time too. Both have their pros and cons. The middle of the day, you've got the sun on the water. The fish are easier to see. If you have a good pair of polarized sunglasses, that sun helps you see a lot deeper into the water than when you've got shade on there. But with that comes the challenges of the fish being able to see you a lot easier and being a lot more skittish, more spooky during that time of the day. You really have to, one main thing is your shadow. You always want to be with the sun in your face, so that if you're not casting a shadow onto the water, as soon as they see that shadow, they're gone.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's similar to, playing the wind when you're bow hunting for deer or whatever. So doing the reverse from a light perspective, because, they're not going to smell you with wind and whatnot. So, yeah, okay, that makes sense. How do you go about it? Do you use I've been toying with the idea of, I've got like a little inflatable raft and toying with the idea of just cruising along on that, floating down the river and trying to use that as a way to go. Do you do that? Do you go down the bank? How do you play that?
A lot of the time I'm fishing smaller creeks around the area that I live. So I'm walking the bank 90% of the time. Out of a kayak in bigger rivers and things like that it's a good way to cover ground and find the fish, especially if you've got thick scrub or anything on the sides. It can be a bit hard to get along and then get into a good position to take a shot as well. And then kayak or even a boat, a larger boat with a petrol motor on bigger lakes can be really good. A lot of the time they'll be feeding up in the shallows. If you've got an electric motor, you can cruise around the edge and you'll find them with their backs out of the water and you get a lot of easy shots around the edge. But 90% of what I do is, walking the bank. Always moving. It's not too productive to stay in one spot for too long. You just you take your shot, and if you miss, you go and you find the other fish and give those ones time to settle down, and you might come back along and they'll be out again after, 20, 30 minutes or something like that.
So I know there is just a heap of carp in so many of our waterways. How many have you had in a session? Like, how many have you taken out? What's your best numbers?
I've had a few days where I'm taking 20 to 30 fish, and that could be in 2 or 3 hours. So you're getting 10 an hour, and then I think my best day is probably between 40 and 50 fish for the same amount of time. And that's definitely not getting every fish that I've seen.
It's a decent amount of fish.
Yep.
What do you do with them? Like, obviously, for our listeners, if you aren't up to speed with carp, they are a massive invasive pest and you have to dispose of them. You cannot put them back. If you're walking the banks, you just knife through the head, well and truly up off the bank and leaving them to die. Like, what's the price? Because I'm guessing if you're 50 fish, like, that's a bloody lot of fish to get rid of. Mind you, they make great fertilizer if you can hang out with the smell. And then also, I've heard people eat them. I don't know if I would personally, but I have heard people who've done. I think even the DPI might have actually done a series on how to cook them. And I do believe in Asia, I think they're a bit of a delicacy too.
Yep. Well, it's one thing a lot of people don't know is that they're in the top 10 most eaten fish in the world. So not here, obviously, but over the whole world, they are a very popular eating fish. I've tried them a couple of times myself. Not a big fan, but I also mightn't be cooking them how they're supposed to be cooked. As you said, 40 to 50 fish is a lot to handle and do anything with. Fertilizer is one thing. I will bring back whatever I can and bury them in the garden, but there's a limit to that when you're doing it every week and you're burying them. The gardens fill up with them pretty quick, so depending on where I am, some people, I have private properties that people get me to come and try and get rid of the fish out of the creek because they have sheep and cattle, and the carp are just destroying the banks and making the water just unusable. Some of them have preferences. They don't want them left there. They want them taken away. Other people don't mind. But if I am leaving them there, as you say, I'll dispatch them, knife through the head, break the neck, find a spot away from where other people are going to be and try and dump them there. Just away so that the smell and everything isn't an issue. Utilize them as much as I can, but when you're getting 20, 30, 40 fish, sometimes you just got to find a spot and leave them because you just can't do anything with that many.
Interesting. As soon as you were talking there, I went straight to hunting. Essentially, is that obviously different property owners want different things done with them. So that was interesting to hear because I've never sort of thought about fish in that same sort of context. Is that the owner would want everything removed or buried or whatever it might be. So that's interesting. What kind of damage do they do? I know they're not great for our waterways. I thought it was more from just the destruction of native fish competing for food. So there's a bit more on the sense of they do some erosion or something like that?
Yep. So as you said, competing for food, especially, obviously, we're over in Europe, they're not a problem. It must be the conditions, the weather and everything. They just can't breed the same that they do over here. The conditions are right for them. So as soon as they get into a waterway, they take over. I think it's 80 to 90% of the biomass in a lot of the rivers in New South Wales that they contribute for now. So as soon as they get into a system, they just take over. They compete for all the same food, shrimp, yabbies, and then smaller fish as well. A lot of people don't think of them as a predator, but they're very opportunistic. They will eat smaller fish. I've seen them do it. I've caught them on lures and all that sort of thing, which people don't seem to realise, just think of them as scavengers, but they will chase food down and eat it. And then, the other thing is the erosion. When they're looking for food, they're often going along the bottom. The way that I will find fish sometimes is looking for that puff of dirt coming up in the water. And as soon as you see that, you know that there's a carp feeding there. And some spots that I've gotten in the rivers and sort of had a look around, they could have undercut the bank by 1 metre to 2 metres. Like there's just a whole passage back underneath the bank that you don't even realise. They destruct them enormously, just sucking away with the mud, looking for food. Especially when you get large numbers, they school up and they do a lot of damage.
I've been drawn to doing it because I like the conservation side of it. They're starting to sound a lot like feral pigs. That just destruction, that, erosion of, the soil in one case with the pigs, but then you're talking about the erosion of under the banks with the carp. They are a school fish, are they? So they come together in large groups and move in that school.
Yep. You will get solitary fish, especially some of the larger ones. They will move around on their own looking for food and things like that, but especially when you get down to medium, sort of 40 centimetres, smaller like that, it's not uncommon to see them in groups of 10 to 20 sometimes. And then very small, I wouldn't call them fish fry, but anything from that sort of 5 to 10 centimetres, you could see a school of 50 to 100. They definitely school up.
Yeah, okay. Is there better times of year to hunt them? Like, is summer a bit nicer? Do they like the warmer? I'd be guessing the warmer water, or they'd be coming up to get some sun to heat up. Winter, but then again, winter, you talk about deer and animals, they get up earlier. They want to get the first sun to warm themselves up. Do you see similar sort of patterns with carp?
Yep. Yeah, very similar actually. That's interesting you say that about the deer. The carp do a very similar thing. You can shoot them through the winter. They're all still there. They don't go anywhere. But you have a smaller period of time where they're going to be out and looking for food or looking for that sun. When you get into the spring and summer months, when you get the first few really warm days during spring or summer, is one of the best times to go because they've been waiting. They sit a lot more dormant during the colder months. They're not moving around as much. As soon as you get that warm weather, they take that as a signal to get out and about. Middle of the day, you will find them, as you said, sunning themselves on the top with their backs nearly out of the water, trying to get that warmth. They move around a lot more too. Their metabolism speeds up. They're looking for food a lot more during summer. That's the time to go. Yeah.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
So I did also hear that if you get one that's pregnant, I'm not sure if they call fish pregnant, but whatever that might be, if they're full of eggs, that if you leave that on the bank, that's an issue because those eggs can be washed into the waterway and then they potentially can then, breed and hatch, I'm guessing, and then come about. So you're not really doing your job, I suppose, if you're leaving pregnant ones too close to the waterways. Is that true?
Yeah. Yep. So there's a little bit of a misconception, I suppose, with that sort of thing. They're very tough fish, and the same thing goes for the eggs. They can survive in a dead fish for a certain amount of time, but with that fish potentially getting back in the waterway, there's still a lot of things that have to line up for those eggs to hatch. They still have to be released, and they still need a male fish to fertilize them. The eggs aren't just going to hatch out of a dead fish on their own like a lot of people seem to think they do. They still need to go through the same process as any other kind of fish. They need to be laid and fertilized and then hatched in the right conditions. So potentially leaving a dead fish on the side and somehow it manages to get back in the water, there's a chance those eggs could be fertilized and hatched, but the percentage I would imagine would be minuscule, very, very small.
So let's talk about the videos and the social media, mate, because firstly, I think tell people the name of your Facebook and all your details for socials. What made you want to get into that side of it and filming it and putting all the content out there?
Yep, so it's Wilder Bowfishing and Fishing is my Facebook page. That's the only platform that I'm on at the moment. Don't have any YouTube or videos or anything like that. But basically, I'd just been doing it for a while, and you show your mates the photos, and people seem to be really interested and asking questions and things like that. And I thought, well, why not put it out on a platform where there's going to be other people wanting to know the same things and ask questions and wanting to see this sort of stuff, and I'll get it out there and see how that goes. And so far, there has been a lot of people wanting to know where they can go and what to use and all of that sort of thing. And I'm always happy to help.
Well, I mean, it makes a bit of sense. If you're a hunter, a bow hunter, and you want to practice, I see it as a perfect opportunity to practice with a moving target, and especially in those summer months, because deer, it's when it's hotter, they're out for less time. Personally, I don't like to hunt as much in the summer months because of meat spoilage as well. So I see the value in wanting to, I guess, chase them at a different time of year.
Yep. If you're using the meat and that sort of thing, colder months are definitely better. It's the same thing with fish as it is with any other kind of game animal that you're hunting. For me, summer's the time where you get the most numbers, so that's where I'm spending most of my time on the water, trying to get them. But it comes with the smell and everything degrading a lot quicker. Yeah, trying to do my part. That's part of it. That comes with it. So you just got to put up with it.
Have you ever used them as a bit of a attractant to bring in like other pests like foxes and things like that and have a crack at them?
Yeah, yep. Foxes, yeah, they love them, and like I said, they put out a good smell. Foxes, it's a good thing to put out as a bait. You sit somewhere and you wait towards sunset, things like that, and they'll come in. But they're a good fishing bait in general, to be honest. Freshwater carp fillets are a great bait. Saltwater as well for flathead and brim and things like that. Right. And then for yabbies, Murray crays, all of that sort of thing, you put carp in a yabby trap and they'll come to it.
Okay, I didn't know that. That would be well. That's pretty damn handy if you can go and knock off a flatty with it. With doing a service, cleaning up the waterways to some extent. I don't think we'll ever get rid of them, but if you're able to use them for bait, that's an added benefit, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yep. No, there is a lot of uses for them. If you try and go and try different things, and that you discover pretty quickly that they can be used for a lot of different stuff. As much as people seem to think that they're a dirty fish and no good to eat, yeah, everything seems to love to eat them.
So, just getting back to the bow side of it, how long is the line out of your bottle? Like, what's a range of shots are you taking? I'm guessing it's pretty relatively close from what I could sort of see and whatnot.
Yep. If you're sneaky enough, that's one big thing is vibration. When you're walking along the edge, you want to be treading as lightly as possible, same as if you're stalking deer or anything like that. They don't hear the sound of the footsteps the same as a deer would, but they feel the vibration through the ground. If you're walking along heavy or have a boat on the water with a petrol motor or a vehicle driving along the edge, they will feel that and they'll be gone. So if you're walking along nice and quietly, I'm taking shots sometimes directly below my feet on the bank that I'm walking, 1 to 2 meters, sometimes directly below, and then other shots you're out to sort of 10 or 15 meters. Anything beyond 15 meters is not a good shot to take. I generally just hold it and find another fish. If you're hooking up in something in the opposite bank from that far away and you've got to get in the water to get your arrow, it's not really worth it. You spook the other fish. So I generally leave anything over 15 meters alone. There are rules for the amount of line that you're allowed to have when bow fishing. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if it's 20 or 30 meters of line you're allowed to have, but that can all be found on the DPI website. They do have rules for the amount of line that you're allowed to have.
What kind of sight do you use? That was the other thing I was thinking, because obviously my bow has the different sort of pins for different meterage. What do you do something similar, or is it just one pin? How do you run that one?
Yep. So if I'm using pins, it's generally 1 or 2 pins. I'll either have just a pin at 10 meters or one at 5 and one at 10. But I've gone away actually from using sights and looking straight down the arrow. You have a lot of refraction on the water. When you're taking a shot at the fish, where it looks like it is, it's actually further. You've got to aim a lot lower. When you're aiming, you're either aiming at the bottom half of the fish, or the further they get away or the deeper they are, you could be aiming 1 to 2 fish underneath what you're actually shooting at. You could be aiming 30, 40 centimeters below the target.
And I'm guessing that's obviously comes with experience, knowing how low to shoot and basically adjust as per where the fish is, where you are, the height and things like that. Yeah,
that's why I've gone away. After a while, I've moved away from using the sights because, as I said, some fish are 1 to 2 meters straight below you. The next shot could be at 5, the next could be at 10, 15, or anywhere in between. And I found using the sights that I was only getting a lot of fish that were right at that 5 or 10 meter mark that I had it sighted in for. And after I've been doing it longer and longer, a lot of people won't know what you're talking about, but you get that feel of where you need to be aiming. And I've just gone with that. taking such a variety of shots with the range being so different, looking down the arrow and just judging where you need to be, I found it a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's referred to as kinesthetic sense. And the more you do something, the more you feel it. And you just know whether you're drawing back or where you're aiming, and you know what feels right and what doesn't. And, you can liken it to shooting a basketball, through the hoop. If you do it 100 times, you will be able to tell which, if you're pushing too hard, if your wrist isn't moving as much, if your trajectory is off before it even actually hits. So you get that knowledge of performance before you actually get that knowledge of results. So I get what you're saying there. And mate, you are correct. It's 30 meters. So is the maximum amount of line you're allowed to have, according to the DPI. So that's a damn long shot. I mean, that's a lot of line. I'm guessing more for when you nail a fish and it runs more than actually taking a 30-meter shot, because, especially with the water, as you were saying, and you'd be a bit hard pressed. I've had some decent polarized glasses, but I reckon you'd be a bit hard pressed looking 30 meters out and seeing a fish that far away through the water.
Yeah. No, like I said, anything over 15 meters, I basically leave it alone. 30 meters, doing that sort of thing it's a very long shot. You got the heavy fiberglass arrows; they're not made for distance. And like you said, the 30 meters, as the DPI says, it is 100% for when you shoot a fish. If you're getting a clean headshot, sometimes they're stone dead, they don't move at all, but a lot of the time you get a large fish, 80, 90 centimeters, you'll be down to no line left at all. They'll pull it all the way out of that retriever, and you've got to follow them down the bank or wherever they're going. They will fight very hard. You need that line to be able to try and get them in for sure.
So 80 to 90, that sounds like a damn good fish. But I have seen, I'm on I think it's called the New South Wales Carp Slayers, or maybe it's Australian Carp Slayers. I'm not too sure.
Yep.
But great Facebook. I love it. I love seeing people getting some absolute stonkers out there. Plenty are coming over the meter mark regularly. What's the biggest one you've taken with the bow?
So 90... 95, 96, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but in the 90s. I haven't cracked that meter mark. I have caught them at the meter mark on rod and line, but haven't been able to find one that big yet with the bow. But hopefully one day soon. But yeah, in the 90s, I've cracked a few in the 90s and a lot in the 80s and that sort of thing.
Great numbers. Like they're still a big, good fish. I wonder, is it the meter ones are just a bit more cagey, much like a big stag, and that's why everyone wants to hunt those big stags because, or big billies, because they've been around a lot longer, they're a bit smarter, a bit cagier, and that would make sense with the bow because as you were talking about the vibration and the movement and the shadows and all those things there, that they get that sense of how to evade predators, and that's what's got them to that monster size.
Yep, 100%. A lot of people seem to have this perception that carp are a dumb fish. That's definitely not true. They're really smart as far as fish go, and they learn and they remember. There's plenty of places that I go to after you've bow fished it heavily for a few sessions. You've got to leave it alone for a few weeks, maybe a couple of months. Those fish, they start to know what's going on, and as soon as you turn up there, as soon as they see you, they'll be gone. They'll take off straight away. When as you first get there, first fish a new place, they'll just sit there and don't even seem to mind that they know you're there and they don't care. After you start nailing a few, they learn and they remember that sort of thing, and they'll be cagey from there on out. And as you said, they don't get to that size without being smart and learning things. It's harder to find those size fish in smaller creeks. They are around, but not as much as the larger impoundments. If you're looking for 90 plus, a meter plus fish like that, you're more looking at the bigger lakes and things like that to find those more regularly.
Well, that makes sense. Larger bodies of water, they'll stick out more, so they're going to try and avoid that and be deeper. I get what you're saying there. You do a fair bit of fishing for carp as well?
Yeah, I do a fair bit of fishing in general. I love bow fishing because, like I said, it combines hunting and fishing together. Helping get rid of the carp is always good, especially when I'm doing it around the local creeks and that for farmers and people that want them gone. But yeah, I do a lot of fishing in general, not just for carp, but if I can, whatever fish I can catch, I'll go fishing for them. But yeah.
I get what you're saying about the bow fishing side, and that's probably what's attracted to it because I love spear fishing, and it's sort of I call it the aquatic hunting. It's nice in the cool. In summer it's nice to cool down in the water, I should say. In winter, I don't want to be in the water. I always find that even a thick steamer, you're sort of getting quite cold quite quickly. So I sort of get what you're saying there because it sort of marries up the ability to bow hunt and fish at the same time, and it's got similar elements across both types. So that's what sort of I like the idea of it. And I've been saying I'm going to get into it for ages, and it's just one of those things. Life happens. I sort of sit there and go, I can't do this now. The kids are getting a lot older, a lot more manageable to be able to take it out. I can see myself getting on the raft with them, floating down, and then being able to have a crack as we go. So I'm starting to look a little bit more into it and go, this is now looking a lot more achievable when then, before they're too small and they can't swim and the like. So yeah, no, it's, I get it. And I get why you like to do it because, it's A, fun, B, you're doing a service and getting them out of the waterway as best possible. And, they do also have a purpose. So I didn't know about the fishing one. I'm really now curious. You've got me sort of interested in using them for bait and trying to nail a few, take them out and try and get some flatties with them because, I love fishing, and I think that would be just it's almost like just a nice cycle, isn't it? That you're cleaning the waterway and then you're using it to catch another fish that you can actually eat. And I appreciate that they are a very worldwide popular fish to eat, not really here in Australia. And I've never really heard great feedback from anyone eating them here. So I'd much rather a flatty, that's for sure.
Yep, me too.